I want to mention one more point here that's really, really critical. And actually, I was by Rav Sternbach this Shabbos, and I don't know if people are following what's going on here in this country, right? But it's probably the worst it's ever been since the formation of the State of Israel. It's hard to say that exactly, because a lot of terrible things happened when the state was formed. They brought a whole group of Jews in from Yemen by planes, and they cut off their payas, and they sent them to non-religious kibbutzim, it's true. But that was more on an individual level. We're facing, perhaps in history, the most radical attempted change of the country of Israel that's ever been around, right? And we have an entire movement of the government pushing the country to change its nature completely, right? And to, as it were, to uproot religious Jewry from the country. I'm just going to give you a couple examples, a couple examples. Rav Sternbach writes about here. Perhaps the most serious one, is that we have here, it's a question this week. There's a new program by the government called Giur Meor Panim. Giur Panim. What does that mean? It means that everybody in the country who has a Jewish father and a non-Jewish mother, they're going to have automatic conversion without any Kabbalist mitzvahs, right? Without any Kabbalist mitzvahs, which is about 500,000 people. Now, what's behind this? It's very simple, right? The non-religious population is worried that since the average Haredi family has, maybe 8, 10 children, and the average non-religious family has 1.5 children and a dog, right? Or maybe 1.25 children and a dog, or maybe 2 dogs and 1 child, depending on the breakdown, right? So you just do the demographics, in another 20 years, the religious Jews will be the majority of the country, and then they'll just make all laws, everyone will have to keep Shabbos and kashrus and things like that. So what are they doing? So very simple, increase the population by 500,000 people, and they also brought in a large wave of non-Jews from other countries, from Ethiopia and other places, and then that's going to reduce the religious possibility majority. That's number one, right? Number two is, though, they're trying everything possible to weaken the religious community. For example, last Thursday they decided that you can't have kosher phones anymore, right? Kosher phones, they're going to eliminate. I don't know if it's going to go through, but it seems they're going to eliminate kosher phones. Why? Because they want the religious community to be more involved with the culture of the secular Jewry. So send them inappropriate text messages or phone calls or whatever, and on and on and on. Right? Rav Sternbach mentioned that he heard personally from both the Chazon Ish and the Brisker Rav. Right? The Brisker Rav said that there'll be a time when there'll be usher to do bris milah in Eretz Yisrael, right? And it's not, from what's going on, it's not so far away. The Chazon Ish once said, after he finished making matzahs, he said it's good that they're letting us make matzahs. Who knows what's going to be, in the future? And we just have to be aware of what's going on. One reason is because if there's such a gezerah happening, we mentioned before from Rav Gershon Edelstein, everything happens because of us. Right? We should never look at what's happening and say, well, this one. Right? It could be they are obviously acting inappropriately, but we always have to think, what is Hashem trying to tell us with what's going on? Obviously, Hashem's trying to tell us that we have to strengthen ourselves, right, in the current situation, and we need to work on ourselves and our own commitment to Torah and mitzvahs if we're being threatened in such a way. But as Rav Sternbach always says from the Zohar, in the Zohar it says the last, as it were, the last link, the last piece before the Gula comes is that the Erev Rav will be very strong. He compares it to a candle going out. He says if you ever watch Friday night, the Shabbos candles going out, right before they go out, they go like that. And the Zohar says that right before the Gula, there'll be a very, very great upsurgence from the Erev Rav, right? The Erev Rav, we know the neshamas that were taken into Klal Yisrael, the Erev Rav by Moshe Rabbeinu. The Gra says that in the end, the Dor Achron, they're going to be really, really strong, and they're going to come to be ma'akev, stop the gula, right? So there's a tremendous upsurgence, and that's perhaps, or very likely, hopefully, what we're seeing today. So we're mamish in the last stages, hopefully, for the gula, and the scary thing is that it could get much, much worse. And this is the time really when HaKadosh Baruch Hu was testing our affiliation with Torah and with Yadus in general, and really it's mechayev a tremendous chizuk in Emunah, and to strengthen everything that we're doing, and not to be weakened by it, and not to accept it, not to accept it. The biggest problem, with these type of things, is that we accept it and say, okay, we'll go on. We can live without kosher phones. We can live without this. We can live without this. The point is that we have to keep going and be strong and realize, what's going on. The more cognizant we are of what's going on, the less we'll be affected by it. Hashem should give us siyata d'shmaya to pull through this very, very difficult time, and to recognize that it's a difficult time. It also obligates us to that in tefillah and in our own avoda. We should be very clear. Amen. Ken Ratzon.